Hi guys, it's Matt for Antihero magazine, and I'm here today with the Atomic Clock, Mr. Gene Hoglan.
Hello, Antihero. How's everybody?
Well, we've got you, so I think we're doing very, very well.
Wonderful. Darn tootin'.
And you're here, it's the last day of your UK tour with Testament.
That's correct.
How's the tour been going?
Oh, it's been amazing. It's been so awesome, man. Just all, the crowds have been great, and the shows have been super fun, and, we're getting along with everybody. All the bands are all cool. So, yeah, it's been a total blast, and we've really enjoyed this one.
And after you've wrapped up with this tour as well, next month you're going out with Slayer.
That's right.
As part of their farewell tour, you're supporting them.
Correct.
Did you know beforehand that this was going to be their farewell, or did it surprise you as much as it did everyone else?
Well, even though they announced it, I got to admit it wasn't a surprise that they did announce it, because I've been reading the interviews with Tom over the last few years, and you could see his lack of desire occurring. So I'm not surprised, but it's still a shame. You don't want to lose one of the legends.
No, absolutely.
So I maybe at some point there'll be some reconsiderations, but of those I know nothing about. But we're fortunate and very, very pleased to be a part of that tour. So that's going to be pretty exciting for everybody. What a great package!
Absolutely.
Like, holy moly! And I hope they bring it over to Europe or something.
Me too. I'm so jealous of people in America for that.
I would imagine. I'm sure. I can't say for certain, but I would imagine that they don't want to cut out Europe of the equation either. So I would imagine there would be something coming up in the future.
And you hung out a lot with Slayer during the early days as well. You helped to contribute to their debut album, is that right?
I sure did. Darn tootin'. God, I sang on Evil Has No Boundaries.
Yes.
And the way that actually came about is we were in the studio, and they were about to record the backing vocals for it. And I remember live, it was always Jeff and Carrie in the back just kind of going, "Evil, my words did fight, evil." And I just mentioned to Tom and Carrie, I was like, "Hey guys, would you ever consider like getting a big gang of dudes in there, big backing, evil?" And they were like, "Good idea. No time like the present. Everybody here, get in the vocal booth. Everybody here is going to be singing." So I remember Jeff Hanneman was there, and Johnny Araya, Tom's brother, was there, and Johnny was reminding me, a few months back that he's like, yeah, they didn't have enough headphones to go around for the 8 guys that were doing the background vocals. So, we had one pair of headphones in somebody's hand where you can kind of hear the song coming through it, and that's, yell when it's time to yell. And afterwards, Hanneman was like, I said, I sang Devo. And Hanneman was like, I sang Weebles. Weebles is a toy from America.
Yeah.
Weebles wobble, but they don't fall down. He's like, I sang Weebles. That was pretty fun.
And a lot of us metalheads as well, we kind of look back at like that LA Bay Area thrash scene with like rose-tinted glasses, I guess.
Yeah.
Did
absolutely.
it feel as game-changing and special as we look at it as now?
Not at all.
Or was it just like taking it for granted kind of thing?
Not even taking it for granted. It was just a struggle to try to get a scene going, because the scene birthed itself in Los Angeles, and you at the time, like, for instance, here's a little factoid or whatever. Metallica was formed at the exact same time at the exact same high school that Dark Angel was formed. And both bands had similar intents, like everybody loved the new wave of British heavy metal, and Metallica, we all love Motorhead, and Metallica liked their Diamond Head, Dark Angel liked their Tank, and both bands like had a similar viewpoint of how they wanted to go. So at the time there was like 2 or 3 thrash bands on the planet, and Metallica, Venom, Dark Angel. I don't think Slayer was quite as savage as they later became. So yeah, and that was before me. The guys in Dark Angel were older than I was. I hadn't come around yet, but yeah, it didn't feel like anything grand was happening. Not so much the opposite, it felt like, but we knew that all that LA glam, cock rock, horse shit music was horrible.
Yes.
And
yes.
we all knew that we were too heavy to ever get big. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, Slayer, too heavy. When they got on board and they were doing all the evil, you know, thrashing early stuff, you know, it was refreshing, because it was like, all of these bands are never going to get popular because we're too heavy. And good, you know, fine. We're fine with that. We don't need to be, you know, Poison or Motley Crue or any of that stuff. You know, Metallica obviously has surpassed all expectations.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, I mean, they're Rolling Stones, they're U2 size, they're, you know, they're Rock and Roll Hall of Fame legend size.
Yeah,
so that's the thing there. But the one thing about it was the camaraderie when you found other people, because there wasn't a lot of other people that were into the heavy stuff. So if you can get another couple of fans out each show, or you meet some other bands that are just starting out that have like minds, you know, you're always welcoming of that. But it did not feel like there was any grand something happening. You know, it was just like, hey, we're all making the heavy music that all those fucking posers don't like, so fuck them.
And your first album with Dark Angel, it was Darkness Descends in
That's
86.
correct.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So when it came time to make that record, was there anything that you learned from hanging out with Slayer or hanging out with the other bands that you were able to bring to that album or to other albums?
Well, I'm not sure if it was hanging out with other bands, but there was one thing that I wanted to do, is I wanted to create beats that hadn't been played before. So and I've always liked doing that. So songs like Death is Certain, Life is Not, with the fragmented double bass patterns that are going on. God, Sean Reinert from Death was explaining to me, he's like, that song itself was an absolute game changer in terms of drumming, because everybody would just do the alternating, you know, kind of patterns. Nobody would break them up, you know, like that. And that song was a game changer for the rules of drumming. And I was like, wow, I never even thought of that. Cool, you know. But, you know, songs like Black Prophecies, just trying to come up with really cool beats that maybe hadn't been played otherwise. And so and I was 18 when I recorded it. I was just out of high school, essentially. So I listened back to that record, and I'm like, wow, that is some pure caveman drumming on that. There's not a lot of subtlety or anything, but I didn't care. It's just like, let's write the heaviest songs we can come up with and make the heaviest beats. And if you notice, Dark Angel never had a beat that was like, say, you know, like that just plain old rock beat, like, say, the as an example, like the Anthrax kind of style of beat, like with Caught in a Mosh, or that, you know, boom gank doo doo gank doo gank doo doo gank, that kind of just straight rock thing. We would not do. I would not do that. You know, I was just like, hey, leave that for those bands. Let's have a twisted take on what could be that beat. Don't do that beat. Do something that's totally messed up that will just keep it away from sounding bouncy or happy. That was where I was at when I was 18. Let's make the heaviest, most brutal stuff we could ever come up with. So there you go.
And as Dark Angel, you toured with Death. Was it in 1989 that you toured
Correct.
with Death?
Yeah.
So even back then, when you were supporting them and seeing them play,
They were supporting us.
Oh, they were supporting you. Oh,
Absolutely.
Sorry. So even then, when you saw them, did you say, like, these guys are really good, I want to play with this band one day?
No, God, no. Chuck and I had been pen pals, you know, back in the tape trading days. And so, you know, we were there when, you know, hey, I got this band called Mantis. And it's like, okay, cool, man. I've changed my name of my band to Death. And we were all kind of like, whoa, bro, really? Are you sure you want to do that? Like, I got to admit, the name Dark Angel is not the heaviest name I would have thought of, but I joined the band, you know. If you're going to call your band Death, we were all kind of like, really? Ooh, why not call it heavy or metal or something? It's like, wow, dude, you know. So we all thought it was pretty silly, but hey, like I said, I had a silly named band myself, so I couldn't complain about it too much. But yeah, when we did the tour together, that was, I mean, we had actually physically met for the first time, and when we did the Ultimate Revenge 2 video, and you know, we finally met and got to shake hands, you know, and that was very cool. And then we went on the tour together, and you know, they were Death. I was in Dark Angel. I was happy to be in Dark Angel. I would pit my music up against theirs any day of the week, you know, like no problem. So there wasn't any like, ooh, I got to join this band. That was a complete different set of circumstances that happened right after Dark Angel ended up, you know, just kind of packing it in or whatever we did, to where, you know, I got a phone call from a mutual associate saying, hey man, I know you're looking, you know, you're looking for something to do, and Chuck has just reached out to me saying I'm looking for a drummer, and so why don't we put you guys together? And I got to admit that '89 tour, it ended really acrimoniously between us and Death. We were not friends at the end of the tour. We were good friends going into it, but by the end of that very brief tour, 6-week tour or whatever, it was ugly. So I just was kind of scratching my head like, wow, that's, you know, take some balls for Chuck to reach out and say, hey man, you want to talk? And so we did, and bygones were bygones, water under the bridge. It's like, hey, let's try to venture forth and see what we can do with a project here.
And because of that tour, and I guess because, you know, all the members of Death, apart from Chuck, there's a very high turnaround.
Absolutely.
So because of that, were you a bit hesitant to join Death when you asked, or when they asked?
Well, it was actually so early in, you know, I mean, gosh, well, I guess they were entering their 5th record, Speak of the Devil. You know, they, that wasn't a big concern because, you know, I, like, joining the band, you know, it was Chuck's project. He was doing all the writing, he was doing all the interviews and all the lyric writing and all that sort of stuff. The opportunity that I took with Death was, now that I don't have Dark Angel, I'm not doing the writing or the interviews or the lyric writing or doing all the biz or all of that stuff. I can just concentrate on being a drummer now, you know, because I was a guitarist, you know, with Dark Angel, totally. And so now I could just go back to being a drummer only. So that was fun, and that is the era that I consider me, you know, my blossoming as a drummer, you know, getting to really branch out from beyond the thrash kind of stuff that I was doing with Dark Angel to, you know, now we get to kind of freak out a little bit and just have some fun on the drums. And Chuck was always extremely accommodating with the writing. He was never like, oh, you're overplaying or don't hit so many drums, you know. He was just like, dude, I'm cool with what you're playing. I can play all my riffs over it, and so go sick, go nuts. And so that was a very freeing time for me, and that was all right, you know. I really dug that. I dug that era anyway, totally.
And your first album with Death, Individual Thought Patterns, it was your first album with, you just popped in,
That's
your
right.
partner in crime, Steve DiGiorgio, as well. So because he's such a good bassist, he's a fantastic bassist, do you feel like working with him sort of pushed you as a drummer as well?
It totally does, because it's not even from a, well, I'm playing with this great musician, I need to step up my game. It's like I'm playing with my buddy. You know, I knew Steve way before we, you know, Sadis used to open for Dark Angel on the West Coast a lot. And, you know, we were already friends. So now we got to work together. I knew his talent. And the way it pushes me, it's more from like a friendly, you know, kind of competition sort of thing. Like, hey, check this out. Okay, well, check this out. You know, and you know, we have a lot of bantering back and forth musically, and I always appreciate that totally. And you know, Steve's the man. You know, he's the best bassist in metal. You know, flat out, just period. So so I get to play with him. That's awesome. You know, and plus we're brothers, so we've been brothers for over 30 years. So you know, we are, like I say, our relationship definitely predates Death. So it just strengthened even further through Death. So.
And going from Individual Thought Patterns into Symbolic as well, there was kind of, I think there was an up in the melody, I guess, going into Symbolic.
Absolutely, yeah.
So was that a conscious thing, like, you know, we want to make, I guess, what would become melodic death metal?
Well, that's the one thing. It's like, you know, that's one thing I will definitely give Death the absolute credit for, is, you know, even though they didn't, Chuck was always uncomfortable with the Godfather of death metal tag that he had. He was always trying to give the credit to his predecessors. He's
do you think he deserved that tag though?
Chuck didn't feel he deserved it. So
okay.
If Chuck doesn't feel it, no. And I don't, because death metal. Look, let me tell you, death metal was dead in '85. You know, it came around in '84, and by '85 it had already parodied itself to death. No pun intended. So Chuck actually was part of the resurrection of death metal, in the scene anyway. And so for many people, Scream Bloody Gore is kind of their first death metal album, even though, maybe they weren't familiar with Possessed, Seven Churches. That, Slayer created death metal to me. I think everybody's vocals were trying to do Tom. And Tom was trying to do Kronos. So it goes back to Venom. It goes back to Lemmy, but the one thing, for most people, Chuck was uncomfortable with the title, but for a lot of people, Chuck and Death created death metal. Savage, brutal death metal. Horrible lyrics, ugly concepts and all that stuff. Then, a few years later, even though they weren't the first to do it, they kind of helped put this style on the map of technical death metal. And I give them credit for that. Two scenes started. Then the melodic death metal thing just kind of occurred. There wasn't any sort of, any of that. So, it's one thing if your band's popular and you're out there doing your stuff. Death, they created three styles of music that are still very viable today, more so than ever, really. So I hand Death that credit, absolutely. But when it came to Symbolic, there wasn't any let's go melodic or anything. It was just, Chuck really did just kind of follow his own muse. He wrote what he felt he wanted to write. And, I tell you, when I first heard the individual demo that he had sent out, I was like, wait, what? I thought we were going to put together this savage, brutal, storming death metal record. After Human, I was like, fuck, we're going to take that up a notch. And then he sent me the I've always referred to it as the adorable riff tape. But it was, it was not death metal. I was kind of taken aback at how not brutal it was, how melodic it was. And, and Chuck, I know, was trying to separate himself from death metal. He was just trying to follow his own path and just do his own thing. And the riffs were just the riffs that he happened to be writing. So we would just try to accommodate those riffs. On Individual, I tried to play with the riffs a lot. Yeah. And with Symbolic, I felt like, wow, these riffs are actually retrograding in terms of technicality. Chuck is getting, Chuck was very into traditional heavy metal. He always hated his own vocals. He's like, fuck, I wish I could have a singer like Jeff Tate or Warrell Dane or Rob Halford, or I want a singer. And no, I think that's what.
Did he not enjoy screaming though?
Oh God, he hated his vocals.
Really?
He hated his singing. Yeah, he's like, I'm the worst. Why do I do this? And and he eventually kind of lost his voice. It's because there was no training for death metal vocals at the time. So, you notice from album to album, the vocals just started getting higher and higher, and I think that was just him kind of losing his voice. So, that's. There was I'm starting to lose track now, but anyway, that's where that was. For Symbolic, the riffs were getting very traditional heavy metal.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, okay, I'm not sure what to do on the drums here, so I'm just going to do everything on the drums, because Death, for me, was kind of entering this technical death metal thing. We weren't even aware of the melodic death metal approach yet, but I was like, this stuff is really melodic. This stuff is really not very savage, not like evil riffs or anything. So we're kind of establishing this technical side era of the band, I suppose. So let me continue with that and place all these extremely busy drums over very simple riffs. So I've always referred to the drums on Symbolic as lead drums.
Yeah.
Because I'm playing lead drums, man.
That makes sense.
The riffs are simple and the drummer's freaking out. And you should have changed my name to Fill All Gaps on that, right? Because there's not one beat that is not something he's playing on. So, and then after that, Chuck and I, we started, before Symbolic even came out, we started working on what became the Sound of Perseverance. I wrote about 6 of those songs with him.
Really?
And I was taking it in an absolute opposite direction than Richard Christie did. I remember hearing the record the first time. I'm like, hey, I remember working on that. I remember working on that song. Oh, I remember this song. Oh, I remember that song. And I'm like, I don't recognize any one of these drums as what I was playing. And I think Richard just jumped in there and probably figured, wow, I got some really big shoes to fill, so I'm gonna fill all gaps too. So I think that's kind of Richard's approach to that record. But that's a little history of Death from Gene's side anyway.
And with my sort of generation of metalheads as well, we'll never get to know sort of Chuck as a person. We'll be able to know him through his music and through like the old live footage. But having known Chuck as a person, what was he actually like as a person? When you think of Chuck as a person, what do you think of?
Well, like I said, musically working with him was just an absolute piece of cake, because we always got on that side. And Chuck was a complex guy. Like he'd have his good days, he'd have his bad days, and I'd see him yelling at Oprah on TV, can you believe it? Calling his girl up, can you believe this is going on Oprah? Can you believe these people? And I'm just like, why do you care? Like, do you care? I couldn't give two shits about this. But, Chuck would get himself worked up on something, and that was just it. He could get himself worked up on things that to the average next person might be like, I don't think that would even be on my radar, but that's the way that's part of how Chuck's complexity worked. And but he was a super cool guy. He was a pretty gentle soul, but I know he was tormented at the fact that he really had a problem with the record industry. He really felt like the record industry was out to get him. And I can see, you get screwed around enough in certain deals and contracts and how things go, and people that you've surrounded yourself with sometimes stabbing you in the back. I can see where that could bitter up a person pretty well. And I've always tried to stay out of the bitter side of things. It's like, hey, that didn't work out for me, but I'm not going to get bitter and jaded about it. I'm just going to try to carry on and take something up to the next level of positivity or whatever. But I could see Chuck getting down with the record industry, and that's why he broke up Death towards the end of the Symbolic tour run. Some things happened between him and Roadrunner that he was. He had warned them going into it, like, as long as you don't do this, and this, we're going to have a pretty decent relationship. And they went out and did, this and this. And Chuck was like, I can't abide by that, so I'd rather throw a Molotov cocktail on my own career. I'd rather carpet bomb my own band and break us up rather than to bow to your wishes, record label. And, I give him props for that. That took a major set of balls to say I'd rather fucking fall on my sword than give in to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so Death broke up until they put out the Sounds of Perseverance record 3 years later. There was no Death, so there was Control Denied. He was working on that, and I think that was probably where his heart was. I'm sure he was super into that. And Stevie D could tell you more about that because I think he played on that.
That had the clean vocals as well.
And he finally got his wish.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think the music sounded pretty Chuck-like.
Yeah.
Similar to Symbolic sort of thing, but with the vocals that he wanted. So I think that was probably a dream situation for Chuck, the Control Denied situation. So there you go. And
after Death as well, you've sort of jumped from one complex personality to another in the form of Devin Townsend.
Darn tootin'.
And he said before that Strapping Young Lad was like the angry, sort of darker part of his brain compared to his solo stuff. So with Strapping being like this manifestation of his darker side, did he behave sort of angry and sort of dark around you when he was making the Strapping stuff?
Any sort of darkness would have been covered in Canadian sarcasm. That would have been how his darkness showed, and I loved it, because that kind of darkness I'm with, sharp, biting, intellectual to a degree, whether we were pseudo-intellectual or whatever, there was a sharpness to Devin and a biting, caustic wit that I always dug, and and they were similar personalities, Chuck and Devin, both that they were both driven characters that knew what they wanted, and I'm right there with you. I know what I want, and I want to be with you, and I want to be with you. So You know, I definitely wanted to be with Dev and playing with him and stuff, and that was awesome. You know, for me, Strapping is still my favorite band I've ever been in. You know, flat out, and just especially around the City era when it was just absolute magic. You know, because we were just coming out, just kicking people in the teeth, and smiling as we were doing it. You know, so that was really good. I always enjoyed the Strapping era totally.
And with Strapping being so progressive and so technical as well, did it really feel like you were picking up where you left off with Death? With Strapping?
No, I felt like, because for me, Death was going in the exact opposite direction that I wanted to go in.
Right.
I did not want to look back to the past and really rely on the traditional sort of heavy metal sort of approaches. Devin was just coming in with a, you know, giant spike on his head, fucking
absolutely
crushing into the next eternity, you know, into the next century sort of thing for me, and that Strapping was perfect for me because I always like staying current. I don't want to be a retro thing. I don't want to be a you know, nostalgia act sort of thing. So I'm always about being current and stuff. You know, that's why I wouldn't go back to Dark Angel for many, many years, because you know, it's like that's great. It's awesome, but it's in the past. So I love creating new music, trying to find the new fresh approach, the new fresh sounds, create those sounds, you know. And that's one thing I really enjoyed. Not the ancillary aspects of being in Vancouver was, you know, I was there with Strapping, but I also joined a bunch of other underground, you know, unknown acts that the music was killer, totally next level stuff. And, you know, bands like the Almighty Punch Drunk and Just Cause and Mechanism. Mechanism, for instance, you can find on Spotify or iTunes, that sort of thing. Punch Drunk, not so much. The Almighty Punch Drunk. You might be able to find their album on YouTube, sort of thing. But, you know, for 1997, 98, 99, nobody was sounding like Punch Drunk, you know. And, you know, Strapping took a little bit of influence from Punch Drunk, definitely. And so that was cool. But yeah, I really enjoyed my Strapping era, totally.
And with you saying that, you know, you always want to, you know, look forward with your music as opposed to back. When it came time to return to Testament for this latest run that you did, did that feel counterintuitive? Because it is kind of an more old school band than.
Well, actually, there wasn't much analysis going on at the time. It was just I was doing Fear Factory at the time, and that was whatever. But you know, I think it was Chuck who reached out to me saying, "Hey, man, we're in a current situation where Paul Bostaff, he's not healed from an injury, but we've got a deadline, we've got to hit, you know, so can we maybe just have you come in and do the next record with us?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure. When do you need it?" It's like, "Well, can you be available in a couple of weeks?" It's like, "Hey, man, I'm going to be finished with this Fear Factory tour in a couple of weeks, so I'll finish that up. I'll head up there to the Bay Area, and you know, we'll start working on this record together." And we did the record, and then they were out on the road, and I think, they contacted me saying, "Hey, we've got Johnny T playing for us, Johnny Tempesta, but he's not a member. He's still with the Cult. He's got some dates in the middle of this Anthrax tour that we're doing. Can you maybe come out and fill in for some dates?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, no problem." And then it just kind of evolved from there. It's like they called me up again. It's like, "Hey, man, you want to come out and do the next tour?" It's like, "Yeah, sure." "You want to do the next tour after that?" You know, it's like, "Yeah, sure." And it just kind of evolved into this, you know. So, and yeah, so the counterintuitiveness is still there. However, I've still got my projects that I'm working on that are unreleased as of yet, but they're still on their way. That, you know, I'm making next level music, you know, shit that just like will blow people's minds and go, "What the fuck?" We're, you know, "You do not sound like the drummer that you are in Testament," sort of thing, you know, which I like that. I like being a chameleon, you know. I like being able to, you know, have, you know, my drums with Dark Angel were not the drums that they were with Death, and the Death was not Strapping, and Strapping was not, you know, Testament, sort of thing. So I like the chameleonic nature of it, you know.
And between Strapping and the Return to Testament, you obviously started up doing Dethklok as well. With
that's right. Shit, forgot about that. Yeah, well, that's next level shit. Totally brand new approach to stuff.
And because of that as well, like, you know, you're not really drumming as yourself. You're kind of drumming as Pickles, the drummer in the show. So, are there any subtle changes to your style that you made to fit that?
Well, that was one thing. It's like how do you channel a cartoon character?
Yeah.
Like I didn't want it to sound like Gene Hoglan. It's like I wanted it to sound like, just so it's not so obvious that it's Gene. But there's a lot of Gene-isms there because Brendan started tailoring the stuff towards my style. He's like, now that I've got a drummer, that first batch of songs I was just programming on the drum machine sort of thing. But now that I've got a drummer whom I know his capabilities and capacities, then I'll start writing for that. So he started writing parts that were very, Gene Hoglan. He would like I put out this on the Superior 2.0, the drum kit from hell sort of thing.
Yeah.
There's some Gene files on there. He's like, I just write all the new stuff. I just take the Gene files and cut them up and chop them up. So it's actually you that I'm writing with and I'm writing for. So that's always cool. But yeah, it was challenging to take yourself out of your own drumming style to, you're not covering the last drummer, you're covering a fictional character, so okay.
Some weird drawn guy with dreadlocks.
Yeah. That's pretty funny, is that's how we got introduced to Dethklok, was that the original band that there was a year before the show even came out, so this would have been in 2006, I suppose it was. No, 2005. The show came out in 2006. We were on the road in 2005, and then all of a sudden there was an article that had come out online saying Brendan Small is working on a new project called Dethklok. Here's a screenshot of what the band looks like, and whoever that character was there was Devin. Like you can find it online. You can find the original Dethklok thing. That was Devin, Alien Skullet era. They drew Devin, and
God, I didn't even think of that.
Devin actually put out a cease and desist order on them.
Oh my God!
Because Devin was like, I don't care if they use my image. That's fine, but I'm hearing rumors that the band like murders people and stuff, and they slaughter their fans and stuff, and like I say, I'm okay with you steal my image. That's fine. I don't care. But the connotations that are going on behind that imagery, murdering and savagery and all that, he's like, I'm not down with. So
don't make me a serial killer.
Precisely, yeah. So and you see how the band actually murders their fans. It's always in some kind of comedic, awesome way. But it was a year before the show even came out, so there was no frame of reference whatsoever. So he was just kind of like, well, I can't abide by that. So they changed Pickles to subtly, slightly, but enough to, it doesn't look like Devin anymore. So, so there you go. But Devin was the original Pickles.
Yeah,
seriously.
That's amazing. I didn't even know that.
And then he came back and did voices on the show.
Yeah, of course he did. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
And obviously with Dethklok, it's kind of all legally, I guess, up in the air at the moment. Is there any update on what's going on with that? Will we see any more Dethklok, do you think?
That's a good question. That's definitely more of a Brendan question, but. Right. As of now, it's the state of Dethklok is that there is. We were fortunate to have the alternative that is Galaktikon,
Yes.
So we've entered that era of Brendan's musical side anyway. We got the Galaktikon 2 record that came out last year, and I love that one, and that's very inspired by Dethklok, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely,
so that's where that was at, and I hope Galaktikon gets to carry forward. And I'm not sure. Shit. I'm not sure the scope that it would be under, because Dethklok in the States got fucking massive. I mean, we're taking out Mastodon as an opening act. We're taking out Lamb of God as an opening act. Machine Head opening act.
That's brilliant.
Like we're playing these 5,000 seater places 2 nights in a row, sort of thing, and it got really, really massive. So Galaktikon, I doubt would be on that sort of scale, but that's a super fun project. I really enjoy working with everybody involved, and Brendan's awesome to work with, man. Totally cool guys, and everybody in the band is totally cool, and it's a nice little family. So
absolutely.
I hope we get to do some stuff in the future. Totally.
I'll ask you one more little thing, and then we can return to Testament, which is why we're here. Zimmer's Hole, your fantastic comedy / speed metal band.
Yeah,
you're doing.
man.
What's the update on the new album with that band?
Well, they were in the process of working on it, and then Jed and Byron just completely unbeknownst to myself, went and joined Ryan from the DTB's band.
Oh, yeah.
I had no idea that was happening, because the last thing I heard from Jed is working on new stuff, getting it together, we'll be in touch, we'll make, we're going to make something happen. And, I'm just kind of, I'm not waiting for it, I'm just busy as fuck, but, I'm definitely checking in and like, hey, what's the timeline we're looking at, or what's the plan here? And so I know they're working on material. However, right now their current time is being taken up with the Ryan and Beavis project. So more power to them. Awesome. That's cool, because we're all brothers and that's all killer. RVP and Beavis are awesome dudes. So good for them. It keeps them busy and keeps them out there. So I wish that I think it's called I Monolith, I think is what the name of that project. So I wish that the best of luck. And
absolutely.
If there's some whole stuff around, I'm around for it probably.
And speaking of new music as well, I know a couple of the guys in Testament have talked about getting on a new album at some point this year, maybe.
Yeah,
Is
sure.
there any update on that as well?
Well, I know Eric. He approached me. He's like, hey man, after we get some of the Slayer stuff done, I'd like to bring you up and get cracking on some stuff. And I'm sure Eric is demoing and getting his riffs together. So I would imagine at some point in the future we'll be doing something there.
Have you heard anything yet? Any music?
No, God. Unless it's like some of these noodly things that I hear him play once in a while. I'm not sure what the actual timeline is, but I know I've heard the same thing, that they want to get in the studio soon enough. So I haven't heard any of the new material, but I'm sure it's going to be savage.
Oh, of course.
The way I figure, Slayer, if you want to retire, somebody's got to take your place.
Absolutely.
Might as well be some. I'm writing a new Dark Angel record too.
Yeah.
I intend to fucking destroy everybody with that one. So, if the kings of savage metal are retiring, Testament, take the throne.
Slide Testament into the big four with the rest of them.
Or whatever. Just Testament. Come out with the fucking most brutal fucking kick-ass record you can, and you got a good shot. I'm doing that with Dark Angel.
Yeah.
Period. Whether Slayer was retiring or not, I'm still going to make a savage, killing Dark Angel record that's going to fucking destroy everybody.
Yeah.
So that's my intent with that material. So, yeah, that's. I always have my thoughts on how I think a band should go, and I'm always err on the side of heavy.
Absolutely.
Go heavier.
Absolutely.
You can never go wrong by going heavier and more brutal and more savage. So. That's just my opinion, though. I'm not much in the songwriting stuffs with Testament. We leave that up to Eric, and Alex does his portions and stuff, and Chuck does his stuff. But that would be my public suggestion. Come on, guys, let's make a fucking brutal killing record. Let's kill everybody. That's the way I look at it.
And with the Dark Angel stuff as well, because your last album was Time Does Not Heal, was the last one, wasn't it, from '91?
Correct.
And that was quite a sort of hints of like technical thrash in there, like hints of prog metal in there, I'd say as well.
That's crazy. I've heard that too, and it's like, wow, really? Thank you. Cool.
So I was going to ask, are you going to carry on with that same spirit into this new one, or are you going to become, I don't know, more, I guess simple would be the word, but I don't want that to come across as an insult.
No. Because actually Darkness Descends was way more progressive riff-wise than anything I could come up with Time Does Not Heal, because Jim was writing these psycho riffs, and Leave Scars was actually way more progressive riff-wise. I never understood, the prog thrash or the technical thrash or anything, because with Time Does Not Heal, I didn't quite grasp that, but that's very nice of people to say. That's cool. I think that's building it into something a little more than it was. But
no matter what it is, it's a great album. That's all that matters.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, excellent. Cool. Yeah, that's all. That's all we tried to do.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
But the thing is, like, Jim Durkin, our original guitarist, he loves Time Does Not Heal. And he's like, I'd write stuff like that. I'm like, oh, write shit like, Darkness Descends, You write that and I'll write the Time Does Not Heal stuff, But I think we're just going to try to make it sound like Dark Angel, but just a very steroided out Dark Angel. I'm not concerned with writing long songs. I wasn't concerned with writing long songs then. They just turned out that way. It wasn't, I'm going to write an 8-minute song, and then I'm going to write a 9-minute song. And that was never that was just me not being able to self-edit.
Right.
You know, if I wrote a riff, I threw it in there. And it sounds like it in spots. But, you know, having a real good team, like, you know, Jim and I are a great writing team. Brett Erickson from Times Not Heal and I were a killer writing team, you know. Brett showed up, you know. Brett did a great job on Times Not Heal. It wouldn't have been Times Not Heal without Brett. But, just, you know, Dark Angel wouldn't be Dark Angel without Jim Durkin. So,
sure.
You know, Jim's stuff that he's writing, you know, he's writing some Savage stuff. I'm writing some Savage stuff. We're not that concerned with the melody of it. I love the way Ron's voice has evolved. Like, if you hear him singing now, he's a million times manlier than he was back in. I thought he had a manly voice then, but now he's just got this timbre to his voice of like this heaviness. I'm like, fuck, I can't wait to record Ron. So his vocals are gonna kill people, and you know, so I'm stoked on all of that.
Are you going to be returning to some guitar playing on this new record as well?
I would imagine, just because it's probably going to be one of those things like, dude, we can't play your riffs, you fucking play them, you know, like, and we're not going to play those songs live. So, but we'll see, you know. And Jim has told me, because I'm like, dude, I'll simplify what I write, you know, because I got the right hand of the apocalypse, you know. I'll take the Pepsi challenge with anybody's right hand, you know. And Jim has said, don't, you know, I'm like, I'll simplify stuff, I'll dumb things down. He's like, just don't. I'll learn what you're writing. You write what you write, because I like the way you write, and I'll step up and learn your shit. Don't dumb anything down, because, you know, a drummer has a different take on how to write drums. You know, that's one thing I've learned over the years is I could pick out a band like that the drummer writes the music. I can hear it immediately. And
what's the giveaway?
The approach, right. The approach to the guitars and the approach to the arrangements and stuff, and you know, a lot of that gent stuff, you know, kind of thing. I think the drummer's writing a lot of that stuff, you know, because that's so percussively oriented. And all I know is that I've always been able to play riffs that most guitarists are just like, fuck that, I can't play that. And I'm like, I'm not a guitarist, you know, like, you're the guitarist, I'm a drummer, but I can write riffs that you can't play. So I just figure it's the drummer's style and approach that makes me able to go, okay, yeah, you're a drummer, you wrote this stuff. And I've gone up to bands where it's like, you know, I've gone up to bands drummers like, I've heard your stuff, you're the drummer, do you write it? And they're like, yes. And I'm like, I knew it. So there you go.
And with Dark Angel as well, because you have been a part of it for, I think it must be over 30 years now you've been a part of Dark Angel on off.
Yeah.
That is very much kind of like your baby. Like, there is no Dark Angel without Gene Hoglan.
Fair enough.
So in the studio, like, working with Dark Angel, what's it like compared with a band where, I don't know, something like Death, where there have been other drummers? What's the vibe like there? How different is it?
Boy, we have a pretty relaxed vibe in the studio, and since we haven't recorded a record since we recorded Time Does Not Heal in 1990. We haven't been back to the studio since then. I know that we've all changed in the band. Like, I've definitely changed. I used to be just an absolute taskmaster, you know, like, I probably wasn't the most fun guy to be around in the band because I'm always trying to push us forward and stuff, and if I feel like you're slacking, I'll call you on the carpet for it.
Kick your ass.
Yeah, that sort of thing. And now, God, we've always been brothers. You know, we never broke up because of animosity or anything like that. It was just the time to dissolve. You know, seemed like the perfect time to dissolve the band. So we've always been friends. Now we're tighter than ever. You know, like, everybody's just bros. We're all grown men now. We're not arguing teenagers at each other. We're men that know how to converse and get your point across, you know, lucidly, as opposed to, hey man, fuck you, I fuck, you know, that sort of thing. We don't do that anymore. So we're polite and we're gentle with each other, and that's cool. It's good.
And we said, like, all the way back at the beginning of this interview, we were talking about how, you know, you started in Dark Angel, you like angry kids, like, you know, you just hated the music in LA at the time.
Sure.
Is it hard to keep that anger going 30 years down the line?
Not for me. Not for me at all, because you know, that anger is a spirit that's in you, and it doesn't mean you're an angry person, but when it comes time that you have, like, I don't know, maybe it's like a boxer or something. You know, a boxer's not out there punching everybody out, but when it's time to do his thing, he gets in and punches the guy out. So maybe it's like that. You know, it's easy to write aggressive, aggro, pissed off music. That's the easiest thing in the world to me to do. You know, and I'm not an angry person, but I can channel whatever I need to channel right into that little section of your life, riff writing or whatever, that you know, will make for God damn, I just got kicked in the face by this song, you know, sort of you know, reaction from the audience. So there you go. Yeah, it's easy to write aggressive music. I don't have a problem with that at all.
And I know on this tour as well, with coming back to Testament again, a really lousy segue, I apologise.
Oh, no.
Coming back to Testament, you're doing, is it a drum solo you're doing every night on this tour?
No, God, yeah.
Are you improvising it? Or?
Yes, every night.
You enjoying it?
No. No, I gave up on a drum solo the other night. I quit.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
I was like, you know, 3 minutes in and just, I wasn't catching the vibe. First time I haven't been able to catch some kind of vibe, but I'm trying this and I'm trying that, and I've never been a soloist. This is the first time ever in my career. I've been playing for 35 years now or something. This is the first time I'm doing solos, and you know, I don't like other people's drum solos, you know, like,
fair enough.
If you are leaving to go get a beer or go take a whiz or catch a smoke during my solo, I get it. I understand.
It's a piss break.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's a piss break for us too. So, but you know,
is that why they give it to you? So Chuck and Eric and everyone can just go and have a drink? Or
yeah, it's Chuck. Yeah. Chuck said, I want to take breaks on this. You know, we're going to be up on stage for an hour and 45 minutes every night. I want to, you know, keep my voice in as good a shape as it can be. So, you know, yes, that's why we're doing the solos. And it's like, okay, fine. You know, if the crowd enjoys them, great. If the crowd gets up and walks out on them, that's fine too. You know, because I'm checked out. Believe me. You know, I like every night.
Autopilot, I guess, when you're doing that.
No, because that would be the same solo every night.
Oh, true.
But
true.
Since I'm challenging myself by, you know, I'll have certain elements that will appear on consecutive nights, but the whole solo itself is definitely, you know, it's like, okay, well, I'm getting tired of doing this shit now, so I'll go over here and do some of this stuff over here, and then okay, that's getting boring to me, so I'll try some of that over there in the middle. So, that's my approach to it. Is, you know, it's 3-4 minutes. You know, it's not all that bad, but you know, a couple of nights ago we had to shave our set drastically, and they all knew that, oh, Gene's solo is going to be the first thing to come out. You know, they didn't even have to ask me. They're just like, we cut your solo tonight. I was like, yes, thank you. So, and that was a show that had Nick Barker sitting right behind me. You know, I would have done a solo for him, but that was the night that we just had a short one, but that was fun.
Thank you so much for your time today, man. I'm
Well,
going to wrap up with one last and absolutely terrible question.
Yeah, man.
I want to ask, because we've covered your entire career pretty much, or as much as we can. So out of all the albums you've been on, which is the one that you look back on and think, that's the best album I've done?
City.
Yeah.
Alien. Music for Them Asses from the Almighty Punch Drunk. Mechanism, Inspired Horrific. And any one of the Dethklok records.
Yeah.
It would hard to hone any one down because I just had so many. But those are definitely some of the favorites. You know, the ones that I enjoy listening to still. You know, and that's one thing. When I go into a new recording project or something where I need to, like, just a new something, I'll bust out the old stuff, you know, like some City or some Alien or even Symbolic or something like that, just to prove to myself that, hey, you did it then, you can do it now, your playing's better now, you're in better shape now. So, you know, I don't believe in the denigration of skills that come with age. You know, I'm 50 now, but I feel 28 and I play like I'm 25. So
Look 28.
Thank you. I intend to be doing this, you know, savage, brutal metal when I'm in my 70s. And I figure if I've lost, I don't know how many stone that is, I guess 10 stone or something like that. That's 140 pounds. I've lost about 10 stone.
Wow.
I think. Yeah, a stone is 14 pounds. So I've lost 140 pounds. So I've lost about 10 stone.
That's amazing.
And I'm able to get away with whatever this size I'm at age 50. Like I say, I feel 28. But I think when I'm 70, I'm going to have to be even slimmer, way more cut, way more in shape to be able to do this at that age. So that means at 70, I'll look and feel better than I do here at 50, and at 50 I feel like I'm 28. So perhaps at 70 I might feel like I'm 23, because I'm not going to look the way I do now. I'm going to be like this cut, fucking like sharp looking 70-year-old playing savage metal. So that's kind of my outlook on things. So that's my hope for the future, and I think I can attain that. So I'm stoked on that.
I say that's a brilliant note to end on.
Yeah, man.
Thank you so much for your time today, Gene. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you.
Man,
Everyone go and buy the New Testament album, Brotherhood of the Snake, and while you're at it, buy Gene's DVD.
Darn tootin', please.
Clock Strikes 2?
Yeah, that's right. Atomic Clock Strikes 2. You can get it off of Hoglan Industries. You can get it off of Amazon as well. That's probably the easiest, quickest way to do it, and save yourself all that wacky shipping charges if you get it off Amazon.
Brilliant stuff. Thank you so much.
Thank you, brother.
Gene Hoglan, everyone. Thank you.
Excellent.